Good morning, Ebenezer Elementary second graders. Hope you had a great weekend. It's Monday morning. Start ready to start a new week of remote learning. If you remember last week on Friday, we talked about figurative language and we talked about one particular kind of figurative language. And I told you today we would talk about another one. Figurative language is when you say things that don't mean exactly what they normally would mean. Authors like to use it when they write books. So when you are writing, you might want to try to use some similes or metaphors. When we recall, similes are when we compare things using like or as. Example, like peas in a pod. They're not really peas in a pod, but they're close. So they say they're like peas in a pod. As sweet as pie. She is as sweet as pie. That means she's really, really sweet. Sparkle like a diamond. You might say, your eyes sparkle like a diamond. And because you use the word like or as in the comparison, that's called a simile. So today we're going to learn about another figurative language called metaphors. Sometimes you might hear someone say, it's raining cats and dogs. Now, don't go outside and look up in the sky because they're not going to be cats and dogs. That's the type of figurative language, and they're comparing the rain to it's raining cats and dogs. The world is a rainbow. We know what the world looks like. It's in a round circle, but the world is a rainbow. And when it says that, it's talking about that there are many different colors, and we're all together and we mix together and make a beautiful rainbow. You're a shining star. That means you've done something really, really well, and everybody likes to be a shining star. I want to read you a book today. You know, I told you that authors like to write, and in their writing, they like to use figurative language. This title is a type of figurative language. My mouth is a volcano. So this is comparing this little boy's mouth to a volcano. Now, it doesn't use the word like or as, it just says, my mouth is a volcano. So this title is a metaphor. Let's read why the little boy's mouth is a volcano. This book was written by Julia Cook and illustrated by Carrie Hartman. Hi, my name is Lewis, and people say I erupt a lot. I don't think so. I have a lot to say, and all of my words are very, very important to me. When other people talk, words just pop into my head, and then they slide down my tongue, and my tummy starts to rumble, and then it starts to grumble, and my tongue pushes all those important words up against my teeth, and then I erupt. The words just explode out of my mouth. My mouth is a volcano. Hey, guess what, you guys? In class, my teacher says that when we want to say something, we're supposed to look at her, raise our hand, and wait until she calls on us. I tried that. And after I waited patiently for what seemed like 62 years, my important words slid down from my head onto my tongue. My tummy started to rumble, and then it started to grumble. My words began to wiggle, and then they did the jiggle, and my tongue pushed all of my important words into my mouth, and my volcano erupted. Teacher, I think we should have recess all day. I'm hungry too. Can we go to lunch now? My teacher was less than pleased. She erupted me right back. I know what you're saying is very important to you, Lewis, but since it's not an emergency, you'll have to wait until I call on you. It was my volcano's fault. At daycare, We were sitting on the rug listening to Miss Polly read us a story about planting trees, and all of a sudden, I thought about the time that my grandpa and I planted 6 trees in the front yard. My important words slid down from my head and onto my tongue. My tummy started to rumble, and then it started to grumble. My words began to wiggle, and then they did the jiggle, and my tongue pushed all of my important words into my teeth, and my volcano erupted. I got a timeout. It was my volcano's fault. During dinner, Mom and Dad were talking about paying the bills. And then I thought about how my friend Bill could blow a bubble inside of another bubble. And then that's when he chews 2 pieces of gum. Now that was really important. My important words about Bill slid from my head onto my tongue. My tummy started to rumble, and then it started to grumble, and my words began to wiggle, and then they did the jiggle, and my tongue pushed all my important words into my teeth, and my volcano erupted. Louis, my mom said, you've interrupted again. If somebody else is talking and you don't have an emergency, you have to wait your turn. But Mama, my words, they slide down from my head onto my tongue, and then my tummy starts to rumble. Louis, you did it again. I got sent to my room. She said I was rude. It was my volcano's fault. The next day at school was my very important day. I had been waiting for 126 weeks to be the student star of my class. This was my special moment. I got to share a poster with my class that had pictures of all my favorite things. So I stood up in front of my class and I began to tell them all about the time that I went fishing. Halfway through my story, Richard started to tell everyone about when he went deep sea fishing in Mexico. His story must have been a little bit better than mine because everyone started to look at him. He was stealing my important words. Richard, my teacher said, you interrupted Louis. Now please wait until he's finished and then he might call on you. I couldn't believe how rude Richard was. He erupted me. That really made me angry. After talking about the fishing trip, I started to explain the x-ray of my broken arm. Just as I was getting to the good part, Courtney started to tell the class about when she broke her leg. Courtney, my teacher said, you just interrupted Louis. Now please wait until he's finished talking and then he might call on you. I could not believe how rude that was of Courtney. She started talking right during my 15 minutes of fame. She ruined my important words. She almost stole my moment. When I got home, I told my mom about Rude Richard and Rude Courtney. Now you know how we feel when you interrupt us, said my mom. I never thought about that. I just get so excited and my words, they just pop into my head and then they slide down onto my tongue. My tummy starts to rumble and then it starts to grumble. My words begin to wiggle and then they do the jiggle. And then my tongue pushes all of the important words up against my teeth and I erupt. Words just explode out of my mouth. My mouth is a volcano. Maybe Richard and Courtney have volcanoes in their mouth too, my mom replied. I never thought about that. Well, son, the next time your important words are pushed into your teeth by your tongue, bite down hard and don't let them out. Then take a deep breath and push those words through your nose. Then, when it's your time to talk, take a deep breath in and breathe those words back into your mouth. Will that work? I asked. Only if you make it work, my mom said. That night at the dinner table, my sister Sylvia was in the middle of one of her long girl stories when my important words began to slide down from my head and my volcano started to do its thing. Just as my tongue started to push my words through my teeth, I bit down really hard. Then I breathed my words out through my nose. And as soon as my sister had finished talking, I took a deep breath and back in went my words. I was amazed that they had just hung around outside of my mouth and didn't float away. Then I told my story, and nobody got mad at me for erupting. After that, I never erupted again. Well, except for that time that Bill's bubblegum got stuck in my hair, but that was a real emergency. So, a good lesson for us. We all have mouths that are sometimes like a volcano and they try to erupt when others are talking. That is a metaphor. My mouth is a volcano. It's comparing my mouth to a volcano. You'll see that when you're reading some books, you will see metaphors and similes and other figurative language used in them. And that's because the authors know that that's a good way to get the attention of their readers. And they use metaphors and similes and other figurative language. Sometimes when we're speaking, we use those as well. So one of your class assignments is you have a paper that looks like this. It has similes and metaphors, and each one of these are a simile or metaphor. You're going to cut those out and put them on a piece of paper. All of these are not similes, and all of these are not metaphors. They're mixed up, so you're going to cut them apart, and you're going to glue them on a piece of paper, and then you're going to put all the similes together and all the metaphors together. As hard as nails. If you say your head is hard as nails, that is a simile because it used the words as. Remember, similes use the word as and like. The librarian is a beast if you mess up her books. It's comparing the librarian to a beast, but it doesn't use like or as, so that is a metaphor. You also have another paper, and all you have to do on this one is to read each sentence and write here metaphor or simile, and then you circle the two things that are compared. The first one says, my hair was as black as coal. We hear that word as, so we know that is a simile. Exactly. So you'd write simile, and it's comparing hair to coal. This one is life is a highway. Didn't use like or as, so we know it is that's right, a metaphor. So you'll write metaphor here. You'll circle life and a highway because those are the two things that were compared. Now, notice in your talking or when others are talking to you, or notice in your reading how metaphors and similes are used and other figurative language that we'll talk about later on. So I hope you all have a great day and we will see you next time. Goodbye.